Great polls just out. Leading by 40, 50, and even 60 points. Who expected that? I did. The sanctimonious is crashing. Perhaps the party should come together. People should drop out of the race. We unify, and we beat Biden and the Democrats. They should be easy to beat.
President Trump yesterday weighing in, although he has canceled his big press conference for Monday, which I was looking forward to very, very much. And that has, on the advice of attorneys, no doubt, that has at least been postponed. What with all of the legal actions going on and all that stuff. But I was looking forward to that one. That was going to be more fun than... And we got it's coming up pretty fast now, the Republican debate. I think President Trump has to jump in. I think he's got to be there. He's got to beat up Chris Christie, and he's got to punch back. If he's not there, it won't be any fun either. Ron DeSantis dropping through the floor in the polls. President Trump ascending, and Ron DeSantis, I thought he was in politics and he was going to do pretty well, but it's not working out very well for him. Vivek Ramaswamy doing maybe surprisingly well. A lot of people are saying surprisingly well. I'm not really entirely surprised because I think he's a very bright guy, very smart guy, very articulate guy. And can you say articulate, or is that... He's the first mainstream Indian American guy to come along who's articulate and bright and clean. It's like a fairy tale, man. That's wait a minute. I'm sorry, that's already taken. That's Barack Obama's description, according to Lunch Bucket Joe Biden. According to what do we call him now? Is Pierre Delecto, Carlos Danger? What's his name? Robert L. Peters. We got Robert L. Peters. That's the President of the United States. It's good stuff. J.R.B. Ware. J.R.B. Ware. That's kind of like a Carlos Danger name, isn't it? Remember, it was Anthony Weiner, right, when he was online with teenage girls exposing himself and things like that. He's a mainstream Democrat, Clinton White House, Obama White House. Pay no attention to any of this. And, of course, Humma Weiner, got the Humma Weiner thing in there going with his, they're divorced. It's very sad. It's a tragic ending to their beautiful love affair, which was put together by really the Clinton campaign. Imagine if your marriage was a result of the Clinton campaign. That'd be tough, wouldn't it? That'd be terrible. Didn't work out very well for Carlos Danger and for Humma Weiner. But on the other side, we learned yesterday, and we had it on the air for you in hour number 3 yesterday, that it turns out Republican members of Congress have discovered that Joe Biden was using multiple pseudonyms for emails and email addresses, and that they're putting out information about what then Vice President Joe Biden was doing and sharing it in the loop, of course, with Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden included on the emails with the Vice President's schedule and his secret phone conversation with who? Who was it with? Michael, who was it? Not Ukraine again. Was it Ukraine again? It was Ukraine again, with the vice president talking to the president of Ukraine on the telephone, and he looped in through a pseudonym, a fake name for Democrats listening at home. They looped in the Hunter Biden email to make sure that he was clued into the phone conversation, the meeting going on between big guy. Big guy, he gets 10%. And the big guy and the president of Ukraine, and Hunter Biden is in the loop on this. Why? How does that make sense? And using fake emails. Well, how does that make any sense? That's pretty peculiar, I got to say. And we'll see the news media is not interested in this at all because, they're a gang of rancid prostitutes for the most part. What rancid prostitutes? Yeah, not the normal clean kind, not the other kind. So we got that going for us. And it is wacky out there. This town of Washington, D.C. just gives us never-ending supply. And the Democrats beyond that, because even outside of Washington, D.C., they're still changing the genders of children. And what is it with them and the sexual predator tendencies of the Democrat Party? And it's always something like LGBTQ, very often T related with the Democrat Party and the children. It's the children. I like to be close to the children. What a bunch of weirdos these people are. And the news media applauds this, and they say, oh, it's for the safety of the children, because otherwise they're all going to commit suicide. Well, last year, of course, in the United States of America, not that CNN's talking about it, the United States of America had the highest suicide numbers in the history of our country last year. Thanks, Joe Biden. That'd be, if Trump were in the White House, it'd be all Trump's fault. Joe Biden's in the White House, so the story isn't reported. That's how that works. Also, by the way, they're trying to turn all our kids into trannies, They're trying to turn all the kiddies into transgender people. And, of course, transgender people attempt suicide at a rate of more than 40%, right at 40%, slightly over 40%, attempted suicide. And then they say, well, if you don't keep it a secret from the parents, they might try to commit suicide. I think, that horse is already out of the barn. Sorry about that. So we got more because Democrats and trannyism, very, very big. And we got the nice weightlifter lady, the woman power lifter from Canada, who was defeated in a competition. I think it was on Sunday. She was defeated by a man who people go around calling her and she, and say that he is a transgender woman, which is Democrat code for man. See, that's not a woman, that's a man. And so we've got some audio for you of this nice lady who's a real woman, who is a real strong woman, and she was in contention to be the powerlifting champion, woman powerlifting champion of Canada, but instead a dude came in and beat all the women, and the Democrats applaud like a gang of idiots in a burning theater. They're out of their minds. So we've got just scratching the surface, and also turns out, hey, homelessness last year, just in 1 year under Joe Biden and the Democrats, the homelessness jumped 11%, an 11% increase in homelessness last year. Joe Biden and the Democrats keep going around telling us, hey, Bidenomics is working. If the goal is to bankrupt everyone, have the highest suicide rate ever, and have skyrocketing homelessness, then I guess Bidenomics be working, because that's what we got going here. So, Biden emails sought by GOP were sent during planning for anniversary of Beau Biden's death. That's the headline that you get when you're a Democrat. They find out that Joe Biden's using multiple pseudonyms, fake names, fake emails, doing vice presidential business on unsecure email servers, and doing business involving his son, Hunter Biden, and the president of Ukraine. And they say, this, what does this remind you of, Michael? Remember Hillary Clinton's 33,000 emails that were destroyed? She said that they all had to do with yoga, because look at her, she's obviously a yoga master, and Chelsea Clinton's wedding, 33,000 emails on Chelsea Clinton's wedding, and on yoga, because her physical fitness can't be questioned. And now the news media, this is the Independent, their headline, Biden emails sought by GOP. They were sent during planning for the anniversary. The anniversary, which anniversary? Of Beau Biden's death. That's why you had to use fake email addresses? Is that what we're talking about here? Because that's lunacy. You people are out of your minds. You realize that you're mental, don't you? But they get away with this. You see, they say these crazy things because then the New York Times, and this is the Independent, with this ridiculous laugh out loud headline. It's how do the Democrats are constantly making death and mayhem funny. I don't know how they do that, but it's just, it is their bag, baby. It's just extraordinary. Yeah, so Biden emails sought by the Republicans. It was, oh, sure, they want the emails when we were planning the anniversary of Beau Biden's death. I see. And then they get away with that. That's good. But Congressman James Comer, chair of the House Oversight Committee, demands records of Biden using pseudonym while vice president. And there are multiple pseudonyms, but we're still sorting that out. And it's not Carlos Danger like Anthony Weiner with the porn little teenage girl thing online, but it's Robert L. Peters. And of course, there are other people out there named Robert L. Peters, but he used Robert L. Peters. And what's the inside joke on this? You see, they called him Pedo Pete. Hunter called Joe Biden Pedo Pete in at least one communication and probably more. Pedophile, and Pete, because he's going by Robert L. Peters, it's hard to say. But Pedo Pete, because, he used to shower with his daughter until she was, 30 or something. Not really, but until she was much too, I don't know what age you stopped that at, probably 0, probably inappropriate at any age. And then she explained that gave her all kinds of complexes, and she became a sex addict and a drug addict. And remember, passive-aggressive, she left the diary with all the family secrets under a pillow or something in the rehab center for drugs and sex addiction. And in that, and then you remember the FBI raided, who did they raid? What's his name at Project Veritas? James O'Keefe. They raided his home, the FBI did, because they said he stole something that was given to him, but they were protecting the crown jewels of the corrupt Biden family, the Biden organized crime family. Just another FBI raid on political enemies of the Democrat Party, because they got a hold of this, again, the passive-aggressive drop by the Joe Biden shower daughter. Well, this we just call her shower daughter, shower girl. And this family is a bigger mess than the Kennedy family. Boy, that is amazing. So Comer demands records of Biden using pseudonym. While people get to that, Joe Biden's Robert Peters pseudonym under scrutiny as GOP probes emails. They got more probes going on. I saw it yesterday. The probe is heating up. The probe is heating up, which is good because those cold probes. You don't really want a cold probe. That's much less comfortable. And how do we feel about the economy? We, the American people, while Joe Biden and the media going around telling us that Bidenomics, best thing that ever happened. Boy, it is the best time ever. Who do they have? Robert Reich. Remember Robert Reich? He's Robert Reich Jr., right? Then he named his son Robert Reich III. He's called the Third Reich. Boom. He doesn't really have the Third Reich as his son, but it would be funny if he did. Robert Reich, he was on MSDNC with Joyless Reed, and he said this is a Goldilocks economy. Goldilocks economy. This economy is so strong, it's like a fairy tale, kind of like, Barack Obama being the first mainstream black guy to come along who's articulate and bright and clean, which is the way that Joe Biden described him. So I've got statistics, new polls out on the state of the economy, and of course skyrocketing homelessness under Joe Biden. But it's not his fault. MSNBC said it was Trump's fault or something like that. It's we live in demented times. You know why, Michael? Democrats, because of Democrats. Yeah, and so we've got that going. Also, one of Joe Biden's transgender administration officials, the luggage thief one? No, a different. What was that guy's name? Sam Brinton. He stole women's luggage at multiple airports and then dressed up in the ladies' clothes, and that's fine. In fact, they might run him for president in 2028 because Sam Brinton is perfectly normal in Democrat Party circles. He shows up in clothing that he stole on airports, women's clothing. I forgot to mention that. But this Rachel Levine, who played football in high school with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which is kind of amusing. But Rachel Levine went to a gender clinic. Democrats have gender clinics now, where they refer to women as egg producers because they're erasing women everywhere you look. And in California, they've got this idiot former House member who's now the mayor of Los Angeles talking about fighting crime. What? That'd ruin everything. Forget that. In Chicago, they're calling on the gang members to have hours. They want to have hours for shooting people in Chicago. Pretty amazing stuff. And Maui and the environment, and there's a hurricane coming to Southern California, but it's going to peter out before it gets there. Also, the Washington Redskins. They've got new ownership there. And some people are already clamoring for Dan Snyder to come back because they've come up with a new idea. And I don't think it's a very good one. Got that for you coming up. And Ron DeSantis debate strategy all over the front page of the New York Times. Pay no attention to that. Mortgage rates, Joe Biden, Bidenomics. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. We're at 888-630-9625. Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Book by this July 31st for extra savings. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. Yeah, lots of Joe Biden on the economy and this kinky pseudonym stuff. What's with the Democrats and having alternative identities? What if he has any as a woman? Because a lot of Democrats do, you know. Let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Michael calling from Franklin, Michigan. Michael, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Well, Chris, I am a big fan of you on radio and on the television machine, and I appreciate your taking the call. I was on NPR yesterday, which is kind of an interesting experiment. They're desperately looking for conservative perspectives on the Trump indictment. And so I floated an idea, among other things, that we discussed. But let me run this by you and the audience and see what you think. So Joe Biden takes a look at the polls and recognizes how dismal it is for him and that he's really not in a great position to run for re-election, and most Democrats agree. But, of course, they're fearful about pushing him out and ending up with cackling Kamala, because that's terrible for everybody. So he says to himself, you know what, I've had my reign, and I think I'm ready to pass the baton, and I really want to be the great unifier, and I want to unify this country, and the best way to do that is to step aside and let the younger generation take over. And so that we can look forward instead of backwards, I would like to pardon President Trump and let him similarly hand the baton to a younger generation if he agrees to step away. And, you know, allow this incredibly diverse and unique Republican Party to present other options. This would be a win-win-win for everybody, because Democrats would probably think, great, we don't have to deal with these two old guys. And even Republicans would probably say, as much as we love Donald Trump and think he was a great president for a million reasons, that he's a lightning rod, these indictments are absurd.
Michael, a fascinating proposal, and I bet NPR was happy to have you call in too. Yes, it's true. I know they're exhausting, these lunatic lefties. They're out of their minds, and it does become quite exhausting because it's part of their strategy. Their technique is to be so fanatical and to never stop, never relent, never give up. And they do it for years and years. And then finally, you know, reasonable people just kind of throw our hands up and say, you know, enough already, for the love of. So there's a lot of that going on. And in fact, with that, let's go to the telephones, Mike. Let's go to Greg calling from Olympia, Washington. Gregory, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Well, hello, Chris. I love talking with you. I love listening to you. There's something that puzzles me. Uh-huh. When the president declared war on, when President Trump declared war on massive corruption, and he said that he was going to drain the swamp, were the Democrats who started attacking him, were they committing treason or just betrayal?
Well, I think it's just betrayal, honestly. Because treason has legal connotations and constitutional connotations that I think would not be entirely fulfilled once you got into a court of law. But they, you know, and I know when you called in, you spoke to Jasmine who you can speak to if you call in today. And Jasmine is more popular than anybody here, I think, isn't she? Everybody loves Jasmine.
Yeah, she's my favorite.
Yeah, she is. She's wonderful. And we are at 888-630-9625. But you called and you were talking to Jasmine, and you said, what do you do when I'm against this whole transgenderism thing and child grooming, but I'm exhausted hearing about it, right? That's what you talked to Jasmine about, right?
Yes, sir.
And tell me about that, because boy, you're not alone in that. Let me tell you that much.
Okay, the problem exists. We can't stop. We can't ignore the problem, but it's like, okay, I'm on board. I'm with you. I go online and I post against it and support you and support the prohibitions and whatever we can do. But at a certain point, it's like I need to do other things. I need to focus on other issues. And it's like, if I'm listening to you and if you give that your most urgent attention or a lot of time, what am I supposed to do then?
Yeah. Today's update on the Democrat Party's transgender jihad that they're waging against children. And again, I don't care if RuPaul dresses up like a woman or if Joe Biden dresses up like a woman, but the way they're coming after the kids in schools from coast to coast, and they're relentless and fanatical in their jihad-like pursuit of their agenda when it comes to children and destroying the very concepts of gender at every turn. And yesterday, there were a couple of stories on this having to do with the Commonwealth of Virginia and Governor Glenn Youngkin there, and Republican, and he's on the correct side of this issue. The Democrat Party is completely nuts, am I right, Greg, when it comes to this gender thing? And in New Jersey, there was another story because the Democrat governor of New Jersey is literally suing 3 different school districts because the school districts announced that if they had a child who was changing gender because the Democrat Party is inciting it, then the school districts said, we will inform the parents, all right? And the governor there, a Democrat in New Jersey, said, oh, no. He's suing the 3 school districts to try to prevent the school districts from telling parents, from sharing information with parents if their boy is turning into a girl because the Democrats in the school system are turning their boy into a girl or turning their girl into a boy. And this is, I mean, I got to tell you, I've never seen anything so mentally ill in all my life on such a scale. You see it on, in individuals. You see, I live in Washington, D.C. There are crazy people everywhere because all the mentally ill people are cast out into the street to die after they fend for themselves for a while. But to have this epidemic and the Democrat Party to be so invested in corrupting the very idea of gender, of biology, that, I've got to say, we got to stand up to this, Greg, and I understand it's exhausting. But Michael Piercy and I were talking about this. They plan on exhausting you, Greg. This is their thing. They will never give up. And the plan, the goal is to exhaust normal people because normal people will only fight this, they assume, for so long and then will give up.
You've never heard what I'm going to tell you. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. The leftists, which, as you always say, are not the same as liberals.
That's right.
The leftists needed an inroad to get the whole party behind them, to let them be the leaders of the party. And so what they did was they told all of the underdogs in the Democrat ranks who have their own little pet peeves or little things that they like to do, but nobody is going to support them. The leftists, I believe, came along and said, we will be your champion. We will help you be seen. And anyone like you who has a deep, dark, dirty little secret that nobody will defend or champion, we will be your champion. And that's how they got in. And that's how they became popular. And that's how they're doing what they're doing. And It's all about power. It's all about, and the thing is, the Democrats, the rank and file Democrats, I believe, they want power and control for different reasons than the leftists want power and control. But because they both want power and control, at this point in their trajectories, they are of common cause. They are buddies. But when push comes to shove, I believe the Democrats are still at heart Americans, and the leftists are not, and that's the key.
That's pretty good stuff, I've got to say, Greg. And you're right. I do always say that they're not liberals, they're leftists, and no one is more illiberal than the leftists, and that's a plain, straight-up fact. And yeah, the left has horned their way into the leadership of the Democrat Party, from Bernie Sanders to AOC. They got these dim-witted morons like AOC who know just enough to be stupid and advanced radical left-wing causes. And they got this squad of these radical extremist Democrat members of Congress who have an agenda that is off the charts, and it's unrecognizable in the context of American politics. John F. Kennedy would be such a Republican today. It's not even funny. The Democrat Party has gone so far left, the left seizes power, and they manipulate public opinion, and they pick fights that they believe they can win. Read Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals and Revelry for Radicals. Look at Barack Obama, who is an Alinskyite up to his eyeballs, and Hillary Clinton, an Alinskyite up to her eyeballs. And she's even bragged about it in the past. And Barack Obama was teaching it, Alinskyite-ism, when he was supposed to be teaching law as a fake law professor. But he was teaching radical leftist public opinion manipulation, because that's what the left does. And they have effectively secured information dominance thanks to the new fascism that they brought, the merger of state and corporate power. And it's the left, it's the Democrat Party, not Republicans in corporate power. It's the Democrat Party and the information oligarchs, from Twitter and Facebook to the Washington Post and the New York Times and NBC and CBS and the entertainment networks too. Their propaganda reach is honestly, Joseph Goebbels would have killed to have the kind of propaganda apparatus that the Democrat Party has. Of course, he would have killed for a lot of just about anything, really. He's a Nazi after all. The Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler. But I think you're onto them, Greg, and you're right. They manipulate public opinion. They have secured effective control of the Democrat Party. And we've got Barack Obama behind the curtain manipulating, operating the Biden White House. Cringe even essentially admitted that from the podium not too long ago, where she said that Obama's staffers, he's telling us staffers, are in daily communication with the Biden White House staffers, and that somebody's got to be running the show. And of course, half the Biden administration are former Obama administration people, and Obama's out there in one of his many multi-million-dollar mansions, just on the horn here and there, making sure that, he famously said that if he could be president for a third term but stay home in his sweats and just tell people what to do, that he'd do it. And that appears to be what's going on now. And it's more radical than the articulate, bright, and clean administration of Barack Obama. And it's not because Joe Biden is some kind of secret mastermind. He's a moron. But they've got these actors behind the curtain running the show. And honestly, Greg, I mean, you said, and on this whole tranny thing, the Democrats they're on a crusade, a jihad, to destroy the very concept of gender in the United States of America, and they're targeting children down to kindergarten. And if you object, then it's the Don't Say Gay bill, and we're going to boycott you, and Disney will come after you, and Disney, which is supposed to be for kids. And at what point do we declare them to be a gang of child sexual predators? Because if you had done this 10 years ago, you'd be in handcuffs. Now it's the Democrat Party's major push in schools. That, and of course, the U.S. education system is no longer in the top 10 of the world's education systems. Did you know that? No longer in the top 10. You know why? Democrats. That's why. Now, let me share with you some audio of a woman. Thank you, Greg. Thank you very much. And this woman is a power lifter. She's a Canadian woman. She was on the television this morning, and she seems like quite a smart woman, actually, and she's a big, strong woman. And her boyfriend is she said, a 6'5" firefighter, and she was in this competition last Sunday when a man won the competition against the women. You can say biological man, you can say transgender woman, you can say whatever you want, depending on how your brain works, but it's a man. That's what's going on here. So power lifter reacts to biological male taking women's national record. Quote, completely unfair. And she had a great line. She's got a great line. She says, it's bodies that play sports, not identities. Wah, wah, wah. That's a good line. It's bodies that play sports, not identities. So a man shows up, says he's a woman. That's his identity is a woman. His body is a man's body. Now, the power lifter, the actual woman power lifter, her name is April Hutchinson. And April Hutchinson posted a little video about this ridiculous man winning the women's powerlifting competition in Canada, setting the Canadian record for a woman powerlifter because, of course, it's a man. And unofficially right now, the world record for a woman powerlifter because, of course, it's a man. Here is an actual woman powerlifter, April Hutchinson.
Any woman, man, or federation that supports men lifting or competing with women is part of the problem, and they should be ashamed, and they are literally helping erase women's sports.
This man who calls himself Ann Andrus, I have cousins named Andrus. Ann Andrus, a 40-year-old trans woman, meaning man, setting the all-time record at the Canadian Powerlifting Union's 2023 Western Canadian Championship on Sunday. And our actual woman here, April Hutchinson, she was in the competition, but she didn't win because a man won. She was also April Hutchinson on the Fox News Channel this morning.
The Canadian Powerlifting Union, it's the only powerlifting federation that has a trans inclusion policy. So there's no policy at all to protect women. Basically, like I said before, my boyfriend, who's a big 6'4" firefighter, could walk into a competition tomorrow, say he feels like a woman that day, go compete, crush records, and the next day go back to being a man.
That's, I'm sorry, I think I said 6'5", 6'4". And I do this all. I went into my meeting at Newsmax yesterday, and I said we got a Zoom call on the big screen with producers in New York. And I said, yesterday I decided to change my identity to a woman. So yesterday I was a woman. And they said, oh, really? Oh, say, yeah. And I say, but this morning when I was driving in, I changed back to a man. So now I'm a man again. And the Democrats actually believe this. The squirrels in their skulls tell them that that's true. Here is April Hutchinson.
We saw this happen with Avi Silverberg a couple months ago. He went in and identified as a woman, and he took records for bench records for in February. So, I mean, it's been done, and men are going to keep doing it to make a mockery of the Federation.
To make a mockery of the Federation. So a man came in and said, I'm a woman, competed, and then when the competition was over, he said, now I'm a man again. And he did it to make a point, to mock the liberals.
Those records will never, ever be broken by a biological female. Like that deadlift, for example, the 573 deadlift, that is something that top athletes who have been training for 10 years and more have not yet achieved. They've been busting their butt off trying to get that, and he literally just strolled in and did it, no problem.
Lifted 573-pound deadlift, pretty good for a woman. Took the woman's trophy, went home with it, holds the record for a woman. And then this guy that she's citing in a previous competition just did it for laughs. And of course, at the Weightlifting Federation, they have national flags and then the transgender flag, because the Democrat Party has a lot of issues. My friend Bill, who's a smart guy and a researcher, texted me about our caller Greg and said that he has studied psychological warfare on populations, and there's a 1956 book by a Dutch psychologist, Joost Merleau, who was captured by the Nazis, tortured by the Nazis. He wrote a definitive book called Rape of the Mind, where he describes what Greg is talking about and what I was just talking about with Greg. It's a conscious strategy used in psychological warfare on populations, and it's used to increase control over populations, to confuse populations with insane proposals, and do it incessantly. It's meant to break the mind, right? And that's what the 1956 book Dutch psychologist Joost Merleau studied and wrote about. And the Nazis, you take these most insane ideas and you inflict them on a population, on a public, and then you just pound it over and over again. Everybody says, well, that's completely insane. Of course, there are two genders. There are men and women. There are boys and girls. And they just keep saying it louder and louder. And if you say there are two genders, they attack you. You become the villain of the story. And the Nazis, the totalitarians, the Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler, the Soviet socialists, the communists, the Chinese, the North Koreans, they engage in these behaviors where they want to advance a cause that's obviously insane. It's on its face is insane. But if you, what was it that their boy Goebbels said? A lie told once, the Socialist Worker Party propagandist for Adolf Hitler. A lie told once remains a lie. A lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. And these leftists, they study these things and in classrooms and in faculty lounges. And now they're rolling out their program. And this is so crazy that if they can get away with this, they know that they'll be able to get away with anything. Joe Biden and corruption coming right up.
Did I hear you correctly say that perhaps he was influenced by Goebbels?